Welcome to the Westport Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Peter Helt, President of the Westport Rotary Club. Thank you for coming out this afternoon, despite the somewhat challenging weather conditions. And thank you, of course, to the library for once again hosting this terrific community event. I believe this is the 9th year that the State of the Town has been co-sponsored by Westport's two Rotary clubs, Westport Rotary and Westport Sunrise Rotary, or as many folks in town know us, the Lobster Fest Club and the Duck Race Club. We are both among the largest and most active Rotary clubs in all of Connecticut. In addition to sponsoring the State of the Town, our clubs are involved with a number of other worthy projects and causes, most of them taking place right here in Westport. As president of Westport Rotary, I'd like to highlight briefly some of our club's more notable undertakings, all of which are consistent with Rotary's simple but powerful motto, service above self. We conduct food drives and serve dinners on a regular basis for Homes with Hope. We completed last spring the total renovation of the Campo Beach Playground and arranged for the funding of that showcase project. We've chaperoned Halloween and Valentine's Day parties for Club 203. And we made annual monetary donations to the Senior Center, Westport EMS, Clasp Homes, Staples Tuition Grants, the Westport Bookshop, and Earth Place, among other local organizations. Our contributions don't stop at the town line. We've undertaken similar projects for and given financial support to a number of not-for-profit organizations in Norwalk, Bridgeport, and elsewhere in Fairfield County. We even get involved occasionally with important international projects. An example in recent years is the construction of a brand new medical facility in rural Uganda, for which we organized all of the funding, rounded up and shipped millions of dollars of donated medical equipment, and even lent a helping hand in the actual construction. I know Sunrise conducts equally commendable activities and projects. So if this sounds like the type of organization that you might like to be a part of, I encourage you to check out either or both of our clubs at our weekly meetings at Greens Farms Church. Tuesdays for lunch for my club, and Fridays for breakfast for Sunrise. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's presentations, and I hope you'll take a closer look at Westport's two great Rotary clubs.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Sabosley. I'm president of the Westport Sunrise Rotary Club, and it is truly an honor to be here with Peter to welcome our newly elected first selectman, Kevin Christie, and our Board of Education representative, Abby Tolan. And to welcome every one of you here for today's event. Many thanks to the library as well for your staff for helping present this. As Peter mentioned, our two clubs are actively involved with events and worthy causes locally and around the world. Locally, the Westport Sunrise Rotary regularly hosts food drives where we collect food items for delivery to folks at Gillespie Center, Homes with Hope, local food banks. And the outpouring of generosity from the people of this town who purchase and donate food items for their neighbors in need is truly inspiring. And Sunrise Rotary is known for our annual Great Duck Race, which is held right down at Jessup Green every June. We hold an annual wine tasting event in the fall at Longshore, and we hold a Super Bowl raffle through our website. The proceeds of our events are allocated to multiple charitable organizations in the region and for important causes around the world, such as Ukraine Aid International. We are two separate clubs. We have separate memberships, we have separate times to meet, and we are each known for separate events and activities. Yet our differences do not divide us. We regularly work together on our food drives and other events, And we're bound together as people of action by a higher purpose. Some of you may be aware of the Rotary four-way test, which is on a sign right over there. It's a set of operating principles that guide the things that we do and we say. Will our actions build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial for all concerned? Each year, high school students throughout the state participate in a four-way test speech competition, and it's always remarkable to see and hear the inspiring things that students have to say, weaving in the principles of our four-way test. And speaking of young people, we recently were visited by a group of Yale students who are members of a Rotary-related club that has undertaken a project to help supply a hospital in Peru with neonatal medicine equipment and related supplies. Sunrise Rotary is also one of a number of peace clubs throughout the world. As part of our mission as peace builders, we seek to ensure that our differences socially do not divide us. To that end, on September 21st of last year, the United Nations Day of Peace, on this stage, we produced a musical event for the purpose of promoting peace, building goodwill, and better friendships. And these are just some of the ways that our actions are beneficial to all concerned. I'd like to conclude by recognizing and thanking our volunteers who are over at the table. I'm from both of our clubs. They're here to gather your questions on cards and to speak to you about Rotary. I'd like to again welcome each of you and thank you for coming out to today's event. And now I'd like you to please welcome our moderator, Jeff Weezer.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Mark. I got to say, this is a cool event. I think this is really a great event. It combines the Rotary clubs, which I'm very fond of, being a member of the Lunch Club, and the four-way test. Mark, that's a very good reminder. I tell you, on your way out, read the four-way test, and if the world lived by the four-way test, including some, we won't go there. If the world lived by a four-way test, this would be a much better world. So check out the four-way test. It's a cool event, though, because it combines the Rotary people, many of whom are here, to provides access to our town leaders, which is really a good opportunity to ask them what you want to ask them, and they're willing to do it, which is really a terrific thing in a town like ours. It provides people who are interested enough to come out on a snowy, rainy, or crummy day, cold day, not snowy, to come hear them, and it gives the opportunity for people at home to listen on the library live stream on westportct.gov or Channel 79. So if you have friends at home who couldn't get here that you think, text them to turn on the TV and watch Channel 79 or to check out the library website. This is going to be an interesting year because we have two new speakers for the last number of years. We've had Jen Tooker and Lee Goldstein, who have provided really interesting access to a lot of that's going on in the town. This year, Kevin Christie and Abby Tolan is here filling in for Lee Goldstein, who is at an education conference in Washington, D.C. And when we got this week that it very snugly fits in between the football playoffs and Super Bowl, and is therefore very difficult to move. She said, I'm going to an education conference, and couldn't do it. So she apologized for not being here, but is very well represented by Abby. Just a little housekeeping first. You will see, if you haven't already, some of the Rotary Club runners with note cards and beautiful Homes with Hope pens that Helen McElinden has donated, as she has for the last many years, to help with note cards and questions. So pick up a note card, just raise your hand, and a runner will find you and give you a note card and a lovely Homes with Hope pen. And write out your questions. The questions will come up here to our Rotary volunteers who will make sure there aren't duplicates, and then they will hand them to me, and I will ask them as many as we can, and hopefully we will get through a lot of them, or they'll be combined into questions that'll get through a lot of your answers. So please, please, please ask questions. That's why we're all here, and it would be very useful. If you're watching on Channel 79 or the library website, you will see an email address that if you're at home, you can send in a question, and that address is info@westportsunriserotary.org. And so if you want to send in your question that way instead of getting a card even here, or if you want to do it from home, please send in your questions so we get as broad an array of questions as possible. So on with the show. Abby Tolan is here and is a member of the Westport Board of Education. She joined the board in 2023 and was elected to a full term this past November for the next 4 years. Abby is a former middle and high school special education teacher. She's served on Westport PTAs in various capacities since 2014. She has a BA degree from Franklin Pierce College and a Master's of Education degree in middle school literacy from Mercy University. Let's see, Abby has lived in Westport for 14 years and with her family, including twin boys who are freshman year in college. So Abby, welcome and come on up. All yours. Thank you.
Hi, thank you guys for coming out on this really cold day. I think it shows how dedicated this community is to the schools in the town. And I want to extend my gratitude to Jeff and to the Rotaries, both Rotaries for sponsoring this event, and to the library. And I want to thank Kevin Christie for having us be a part of this again this year. And to Lee Goldstein, who entrusted me with this big responsibility, who of course, as Jeff said, can't be here today. So, I'm not great with technology. There's all of our schools. And I want to start with our awards and accomplishments, of which there are many. I'll start with our middle school awards. There were 3 talented Bedford Middle School 6th grade students, Chloe, Charlotte, and Olivia, who earned 2nd place in the International World of 8 Billion Student Video Competition. The video was titled The Scoop on Poop, which was selected from thousands of middle school entries from around the world and focused on rainforest ecosystems. And the remarkable accomplishments highlights not only their creativity and teamwork, but their deep engagement with global environmental issues. The recognition comes with a cash prize and an official certificate, which they will get later this spring. And if you want to see the video, you can go to our website and click the links, The Scoop on the Poop. The BMS Science Olympiad team finished 2nd and 3rd in Connecticut State Science Olympiad Tournament, which was held in Canterbury, Connecticut. We had a total of 4 gold medals, with Emily Chang and Chloe Wong winning in epidemiology and map reading, and Zana Tarsi and Grant Zimmerman won in both metric measurements and optics. BMS also had its first student who was accompanied by a paraeducator, our very own Darla Lenahan, who traveled with Maya Lau and Evelyn Z, and she reported that she didn't really need to be there because the two were so engaged in their project that they didn't rely on her help at all. So it was actually the first time in the Science Olympiad history that we had a student participate with special needs that needed a paraeducator. So that's really a big win for us, and I think we should be proud. Coley Middle School also competed in Connecticut Science Olympiad State Tournament, and students earned medal in 5 events: fossils, helicopters, meteorology, metric mastery, and reach for the stars. We also participated, as we did every year, in Connecticut History Day, and this year we won 3rd place in junior documentary group. We had 3 students, Ashley Cerise, Maya Stiegel, and Janika Velagola. I'm probably butchering her name, and I fully apologize. And they won with their documentary, 1970 Kent State Shooting and the Effects on American Schools. A special prize went to Avery Hand and she won in the junior division project for her documentary on the Scopes trial, Rights and Responsibilities, which was sponsored by the Connecticut Supreme Court Historical Society. Another impressive award. At Staples High School, we saw 2 national winners in the annual reflection contest. The National PTA's Award of Excellence went to Archie Kodabeci and for literature, and the National PTA Award of Merit went to Christian Michaels for photography, and both are going to be honored tonight at a Connecticut State ceremony here this evening, actually. Hopefully they'll dress warm. Staples High School had 14 Staples High Schools were selected to participate in Connecticut All-State Music Festival, which happened last March. It's a really big accomplishment for our Staples students. And our Inklings News, which if you don't know is our high school magazine, has once again been awarded the prestigious Gold Crown Award in the High School Hybrid General Magazine category by the Columbia Scholastic Press. The last time we won was in 2022. And then 4 students went to the Connecticut State Science and Engineering Fairs, which spanned 2 weeks last March, and all 4 were named finalists, which means that their project were in the top 20% of over 250 projects judged. I'm going to read these in alphabetical order, not in order of importance. Will Babursky earned first honors in life science category as well as biotechnology category, and he won second prize in biotechnology, and he earned $200. And most exciting, he gets to go on an all-expense-paid trip to the International Science and Engineering Fair in Columbus, Ohio in mid-May. He was only one of 7 students in Connecticut to serve on this delegation. We also saw Nola Francis was a medalist in the biotechnology category. Actually, I think I have a picture of Nolan. He also won a special award from the National Society of In Vitro Biology. His project entitled Effects of Vitamin D Supplementation on Muscle Function in C elegans with a mutation in dystrophin gene. And I don't have any idea what that means. But it's super impressive. And Alexis Krenzer earned first awards in life science category and placed 5th out of 161 students. She also won a special award entitled RPN Regenerative Medicine Excellence Award, which included a $250 cash award. And Sienna Young was a medalist to earn first honors in life science category. So I think that just shows like how strong our science departments are and how supportive our teachers are in helping these students. I mean, these are projects that I think you would expect to hear from, graduate students or medical students. So I was super impressed. And then we saw 2 Staples students compete in the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium this year. 16 were selected to give oral presentations, and 20 were selected to present their research in poster format. Will Babursky was selected as an oral presenter, placing 5th, and now serves as an alternate to the National Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. He earned $500 for the Staples Science Department and $250 for his placement as top 5 oral presenter. So that, again, super impressive. And Nolan Francis was also selected as a poster presenter. And then for CT, for Connecticut History Day, senior group performance won 3rd place for their project MK Ultra, the CIA's secret operation, which defined the line between ethics and national security. And those were students Ellie Arbor and Sophia Sang. And We the People, Staples High School placed 8th in nationals. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a really prestigious event that really pulls some of the best history minds in the state. And Our high school student-run radio station has been recognized as the top high school radio station in the United States in the John Duryea 24-25 High School Radio Awards, which took place in Chicago over this weekend. Under the leadership of Mr. Heider, this program continues to set a national standard for creativity, professionalism, and teamwork. Yeah. And I have to say, on a personal note, I have two boys who participated in the radio station who were both shy and introverted, and this program allowed them to really come out of their shell and shine. And I just think it's one of the great programs that we have, one of many great programs that we have at Staples High School. And then some of our sports awards. We saw varsity fencing team this year, freshman Luca Chahedi, win national gold in Atlantic City against 230 other fencers. And this is only the second year that fencing is a varsity team at Staples. Yep. And our boys basketball team won their first FCAC championship win since 1963. And Staples boys cross country team finished second in Class LL state championship, leading the pack with Oliver Samuel, who earned the individual first place title, an outstanding accomplishment that highlights his hard work and perseverance. We saw Natalie Chodowski, a standout Staples athlete. She's currently representing the United States at the U17 Women's Soccer World Cup in Morocco. An extraordinary achievement that brings pride to our team, school, and community, and this team is a precursor to Olympic eligibility. So. And our boys' soccer team won both state and Class LL FCAC championships at and was its first state title since 2009. We also saw Staples was rated as #1 school in Connecticut by Niche, and Staples was recognized as a red, white, and blue honored school for 24-25, and that is a recognition for civil education. So as we hear a lot about kids not understanding civics and making sure that they're civically involved, we know that our school is doing a great job as recognized by the state in this area. I also want to highlight some of our teachers who also won outstanding awards this year. Well, that's it. Okay. Sorry. That's going to be interesting when I get to that note card. Dr. Daniel Courtwright, 8th grade science teacher at Bedford Middle School, received Westport's 2026 Teacher of the Year Award. And Steve Zimmerman, coordinator of music visual arts, was awarded Administrator of the Year by Connecticut Music Educators Association. Dr. Lauren Francesi was selected by Connecticut Council for Social Studies as the recipient of the Pamela Belmore Gardner Social Studies Leadership Award. This recognition highlights her exceptional contributions for social studies teaching and her dedication to student and teacher success. Staples art teacher Carla Eicher was named Outstanding Art Educator by the Connecticut Art Education Association. And Staples boys soccer coach Liam Whitman was named FCAC Coach of the Year for boys soccer. So as we talk about some of our Staples students' future plans, we saw that 94% of Staples graduates last year went on to a 4-year college. So they are currently freshmen in college, two of mine are there. But we did see that some of our students took a gap year or chose unemployment, did college prep programs. And our guidance department continues to highlight for all of our kids that there are many options aside from a 4-year college, as kids should have as many opportunities as possible. And these are just some of the schools that our kids got into. which are very impressive. One of the things that I highlighted in my own campaign was that was AI, and it has been integrated into our strategic plan. It's a big part of the strategic plan that our superintendent and the district is imparting. And the focus is on ethical intelligence, making sure lessons are preparing students to think, adapt, and lead with AI. That we continue to share thoughtful, adaptive when we use AI to empower the community. I've been impressed and with what our district has brought forth in their AI strategic plan, making sure that we are including integrity, critical thinking, and creating future leaders. And I invite you to go and read the AI strategic plan because I think that you too will be impressed. That said, we on the board are also worried about the amount our students are on technology, as we also became a phone-free high school this year. It is a commitment. Thank you. So many on the board, including myself, have asked for a technology audit to see how often our kids are on computers and how we might be able to pull back, especially in the earlier grades. So as we move forward with AI, we still ask the questions about how much are our kids on technology and how are we making sure that critical thinking and partnership and, you know, the essence of our mission statement is still included. And here are some of the pillars that the district had come up with, which is ethical intelligence, human advantage, inspired teaching, to be future ready, smarter schools, teachers using it to help with scheduling, getting back time by using it to help with lesson planning, and empowering our minds. Our facilities continues to be a big priority, and we've broken ground on a new long lot school. The district has 8 capital projects that have been approved. Most notably, the Staples Auditorium will get a much needed update in lighting, rigging, and sound. The current lighting and rigging is unreliable and potentially dangerous. We are also adding wireless access to the athletic fields. That's new long lots. I forgot that I had to move forward in the slides. Anybody who's been in our fields knows that there is no wireless access down at those fields, so that is going to be addressed. We are also going to see the building of concession stands by the fields with bathrooms, renovate the girls' locker room at the high school. Yep. And give them a team room. We're going to upgrade science labs at Bedford Middle School and replace the motorized folding partition in the gym at CES. There are other ones listed on there, but they weren't as exciting as the ones that I've mentioned. And we are in the midst of budget season. Our cost composition for 26-27 remains similar to previous years, with salaries being the largest part of our budget. The board is considering the addition of Assistant Director of Facilities and Security as the district continues to make facilities a priority. This position is essential. We are also considering adding, by the way, this doesn't add anything to the budget, as there was some restructuring of other administrative positions to allow for this, to alleviate the funding for this position. As well, we've been asked to add BCBAs for which we currently contract out, and these are behavioral services that help design functional behavioral assessments for some of our more needing students. And again, this is cost neutral, as we are going to actually get more services for less money because we are not contracting it out, as they will be in-house. Our priorities are always to continue the reputation and preserve our school district, maintain current services, ensuring safety and security of students and staff, respond to facility reports and evaluators, We want to honor all budget assumptions. We have avoided some costs by bringing in essential school services in our high school and middle school, which allows us to bring some of our students back in from special ed schools, which is one of our most costly items. And we are going to be adding that to the elementary school. So being able to bring more students back in, which is not only cost effective, but also better for the students to be within our community. There's also, the district is asking for the purchase of some vans to offset special ed transportation that is currently also taking up a large part of our budget. Health insurance continues to be a huge portion of our budget. And this year, the current state partnership plan is set to increase by almost 15%, which adds over $3 million to the budget, increasing our budget by 2.24%, with an overall budget increase of 5.48%. If we carve out the health insurance, our increase is only 3.24%, which is in line with other schools in the state, and in line with what we usually present. So, you know, there is talk about possibly changing healthcare plans. This would involve, you know, teacher feedback, our maintenance people, all of the collective bargaining groups, but that is not going to happen within this year. So we are looking to see where we can tighten up our budget. I think that you'll find our schools continue to excel while acknowledging areas that continue to need improvement, and that the BOME and administration is working thoughtfully on developing a budget that allows continual excellence while being fair to our taxpayers. And thank you all for being here on this very cold day, and that concludes. Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you, Abby. If we didn't know there was a lot to be proud of at Westport Schools before that, we do now. That's fantastic. So next, and thank you, Abby, that was terrific, and we'll hear more from her later on. But next, Kevin Christie is going to tell us about the state of the town, and if my math is correct, he's going to do that after serving 76 days in office, which is impressive. There we go. But I have to say, after a campaign where there were about 8 or 9 debates, and Kevin made himself very available. He's been very visible both during the campaign and since the election. And I can say from personal experience, he studied very hard to get up to speed on what is a very challenging job. Kevin has been in Westport since 2018. And then immediately jumped on the Board of Ed in 2021. He has a BA from Union College and an MBA from Northwestern, Kellogg School at Northwestern. He was in finance, investment banking, and strategy at IBM, Merrill Lynch, and Madison Square Garden. So he has a great background in management and in Westport. He and his wife, Gina, are here also with twins. And we are excited to hear him and honored that he has agreed to carry on this very transparent way of getting in front of a lot of voters and residents of Westport. So we're very grateful and honored to have Kevin here, and thank you. Kevin, come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. There we go. Good afternoon again, Abby. It's great to be sharing the stage with you today. And thank you to the Westport Library for hosting us today. And thank you to both Rotaries for sponsoring this year's State of the Town. I appreciate the role both organizations play in bringing our community together, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend this time with all of you in person and with those watching from home. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen, and Amy and Don. I appreciate their partnership in the way we work together on behalf of the town. When I thought about how to approach my first State of the Town, I kept coming back to one simple idea. Westport thrives because of its people and the community. And local government exists to support that community. That support shows up in many ways, every day. It shows up in the services we rely on, the care we extend to one another, the planning we do for the future, and the way residents, staff, volunteers, and local businesses step up to make this town work. And when we talk about the state of the town, it helps to take a step back and look at the whole picture. Now, this is Westport. And every day across this entire community, our town staff are delivering services at a scale that's easy to take for granted until you see it all at once. And when I talk about the scale of town government, I mean what residents' tax dollars actually support every day. Some departments show that scale through clear volumes like calls, incidents, permits, and program participation. Others show it through steady, less visible work that keeps the organization running and allows every department and board to serve the public. Taken together, it's a remarkable amount of work delivered by professionals who show up every day with a strong work ethic of public service. And when people think about town government, they often think about meetings or budgets or decisions that happen at town hall. But most residents experience town government in a much simpler way. They experience it when something works, when a call is answered, when a road is passable, when a permit is issued, when a parent drops off a child at a program or a senior gets a meal. And what I want to do for a few minutes is make the visible scale of work that sits behind those everyday moments and what resident tax dollars actually support across this town. I'll start with public safety. The teams who show up first, keep people safe, and make sure the places we live, work, and gather meet our standards. In 2025, the police department handled over 27,000 calls, including more than 5,500 traffic stops. Our fire department responded to over 4,000 incidents with an average response time of under 4 minutes. In the building, yes. Thank you to our first responders. Sorry, Dave, I have to acknowledge our police chief here as well. Thank you, Dave. The building department issued 3,045 permits and generated more than $2.6 million in revenue, reflecting both the pace of activity in Westport and the work required to keep our community safe and functioning. Now, I want to pause here for a moment because these numbers can move by quickly. But calls for service, emergency responses, and permits are not abstractions. They represent moments when people need help, or reassurance, or clarity. Sometimes those moments are routine, and sometimes they're urgent. And in all of them, the expectation is the same, that someone shows up with care, that the system works, and that it does so consistently, day after day. And our first responders do that every day. Next is Public Works, the department most residents interact with, perhaps without even realizing it. DPW's work touches daily life in every neighborhood. In 2025, DPW repaired or reconstructed 9 miles of road, completed an additional 9 miles of pavement preservation, and paved 2 parking lots. They also advanced major infrastructure projects and secured $11 million in grant funding. And when storms hit, they're also out there for the safety of the public, and often out there first, and have at times operated for 40-hour shifts to keep the town moving and safe. Now, community services, the departments that support residents day to day across age, ability, and circumstance. Parks and Recreation supported over 10,000 program registrations, about 1.2 million beach visits, and 40,000 rounds of golf. This QR code, it's to the Human Services homepage if you'd like to find more information about how we can further support community members in need. And I have to say, Elaine Dano, our Director of Human Services, is also here today. Through Human Services in the Senior Center, the town provides over 24,000 congregate and home-delivered meals annually and has administered $2.9 million in housing and community grants over the last 2 years. And through the Aspetuck Health District, Westport accounted for over 1,200 applications as part of 1,900 total applications across the three-town district, reflecting the scale of public health and safety oversight behind the scenes. And of course, speaking of community services, here we are inside Connecticut's only five-star library. So. Next are the teams that shape how Westport grows, evolves, and protects what makes this town special: in planning and zoning, conservation, and the Historic District Commission. In 2025, the Planning and Zoning Office issued over 430 administrative zoning permits, processed 42 applications to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and 75 applications to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I'd be remiss in not also welcoming and thanking all of our elected officials and many public servants who are on our appointed boards who are also in the audience here today. Now, this QR code, it's to Conservation's interactive department overview, which I encourage each of you to check out. Conservation issued nearly 200 permits, and they currently have 49 violations going through the enforcement process. The Historic District Commission processed over 150 applications across the HDC, the Architecture Review Board, and the Joint Committee, and they've moved to a fully digital application process. Now, finally, I just want to recognize the teams in administration that keep our town and staff running every day. Many of you know we recently completed a state-mandated property revaluation, the first since COVID. And after the notices were mailed, our assessor's office met with over 1,000 property owners through informal hearings. Our tax collector delivered over a 99% collection rate. And our town clerk's office recorded over 460 property transfers and assists residents every day, both in person and online. Our information technology team provides the foundational and improving digital infrastructure that facilitates the town's work and allows residents to engage with the town online. And I also want to thank our teams in finance, personnel, the town attorney's office, and of course, the selectman's office for the vital support they provide to ensure our town functions smoothly. And that scale is possible because of how people work together. Westport works best when professional staff, volunteer boards, and elected leaders are aligned around clear roles, shared responsibilities, and service to the community. Westport's fortunate to have a deeply experienced leadership team and professional staff who bring technical expertise, institutional knowledge, and judgment to complex issues, and who work every day to serve the community and carry the town's work forward. You see that depth of experience most clearly when the town takes on complex projects that require judgment, coordination, and sustained effort. And you see the collaborative approach in how the town addresses public safety, health, and prevention. Recently, Human Services and the Police Department launched the Community Care Unit. This work helps connect individuals to behavioral health and social service support outside of the traditional law enforcement pathways and reflects a shared commitment to prevention, care, and appropriate response. And we see that same coordination in efforts to support youth and families, including joint work between Human Services, the Police Department, the Westport Public Schools, and community partners around underage drinking, social hosting, and early intervention. These are challenges no single department can address alone. And when emergencies happen, like last weekend's storm, preparedness and collaboration become even more visible. Fire and our emergency management director, Public Works, police, human services, and staff throughout the organization work together around the clock to keep roads passable, critical services running, and residents safe. And I'm grateful for that commitment and professionalism. And across all of this work, what stands out is not just effort, but interdependence. We all rely on one another as a community, staff, boards, volunteers, residents, and more. In a town like Westport, this only works because people collaborate, share information, and take collective responsibility for serving the community well. All of this work sits within a financial framework that requires discipline and planning. We're in budget season, a time when trade-offs become real and priorities have to be weighed carefully. The decisions we make over the coming months will shape not just the next fiscal year, but the town's trajectory over the longer term. And my focus is on making sure those conversations are grounded in facts, transparent, and aligned with the long-term interests of our town. The budget is one of the most important policy documents we produce, and it deserves careful, thoughtful attention. And as we look ahead, there are a few areas I want to highlight. Sustainability is one of them. Westport has a long history of environmental leadership, including a commitment adopted by the RTM over 8 years ago to become a net zero community by 2050. We've set ambitious goals as a community, and we should be proud of that. And at the same time, meaningful progress usually comes from steady, thoughtful steps and not going from 0 to 60 all at once. The work ahead is about integrating long-term thinking into everyday decisions and doing so in a way that is responsible, practical, and transparent. Another area to look ahead to is the new Long Lots Elementary School and Stepping Stones Preschool. Thank you to the members of the Long Lot School Building Committee for their continued service. The work is underway, and bids for the next phase of construction are due back later this month. Civic engagement is also essential to Westport's success. Much of what makes this town work depends on residents who are willing to serve on boards and commissions, participate in public conversations, and share their perspectives. There will be many opportunities in the months ahead to engage in budget discussions, planning efforts, and other community conversations, and I encourage people to get involved. And speaking of the budget, the Board of Finance's budget workshops begin tomorrow and continue on February 9th and February 25th in person at Town Hall ahead of formal budget hearings in early March. And I welcome you to join us for those discussions, but if you can't make it, they will also be recorded. And as I close, I'll leave a few QR codes on the screen for meeting alerts, emergency alerts, and Sustainable Westport's Heat Smart and Unplastic Westport collaborations. Westport is a special place, not because of any single project or initiative, but because of the people who care deeply about this community and show up for it in ways large and small. And local government's role is to support that community, to provide services, plan responsibly, and create space for thoughtful decision-making. I'm grateful for the trust placed in town leadership and staff, and I'm optimistic about the work ahead. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being part of what makes Westport such a strong community. And I'm looking forward to your questions and the conversation ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. So now comes the fun part, at least for all of us, maybe not for all of them. So if you have a question and you don't have a note card, raise your hand, and the runners who will show us the runners. Where are the runners? There's a runner, and there's a runner, and there's a runner. So if you have a note card, need a note card and a pen, raise your hand and we'll get those over here. If you are online, again, if you're listening online, info@westportsunriserotary.org, which is being checked over here, and we'll get those questions down, and then we will get the Q&A going. I think probably just about everybody in this room has been thanked already for being here, except I just want to give a shout out to the Y, the people who have been helping us here at the Y, Alex, Travis, David, Eric, and Bill Harmer, who is in the house somewhere. Thank you. I got to say, it is so great working with people at the Y. It's just such a... The Y, the library, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. The wise men, yeah. The library, they're just so great to work with. It's wonderful, and even if I don't know who they are. So there you go. And then one more time to thank all of you for being here. I want to take a quick picture, so smile. There we go, thank you. All right, now for the questions. Kevin, to perhaps lull you into a sense of easy questions here, I want to ask, this was sent in earlier. You were 76 days into your new role. What has been the most pleasant surprise, and what has been the most I didn't expect this problem moment since you've been in your office?
I think the most pleasant surprise, I wouldn't even really caveat it as a surprise, but seeing, having relationships and having worked with some folks at Town Hall over the years through Board of Ed, had an impression of how Town Hall staff are. And it was not a surprise to connect with so many of our town staff and really get a strong sense of how dedicated they are to serving our town as public servants, and the amount of thought and care and strategic thinking that they put into every single decision that they make. So it's been a real pleasure over the course of the 76 days and a little bit beyond that during the transition period to spend more time with our town hall staff who do so much great work on behalf of all of us. Yeah, in terms of the I didn't expect type moment, I would say I didn't expect to have to declare a local civil preparedness emergency prior to day 70, which I had to do last weekend with the storm. And it's one reason why I wanted early on to have a tabletop exercise to prepare for emergencies just like that. So even though it was a bit of a surprise that we did have to declare a local emergency on the back of the state declaration, we were totally prepared. And all of our department heads and all of our staff are such incredible leaders and so great at what they do. It was really inspiring to have the opportunity to go through a situation like that with them that was live and real. And thank you to each and every one again that played a role in that. And thank you to the public, to all of you, for largely staying off the roads and allowing our public works professionals to clear our roads in the event there was an emergency that our police, fire, or EMS had to attend to.
I got to say, I was out of town until a couple of days ago, and I was pretty amazed at how well paved the roads were. Is there anything you would do different, given in the last week, in getting ready? And it sounds like you did a great preparedness, but is there anything else you do?
Sure. The one thing that we talked about in a bit of a debrief was we did try to put out as much early messaging as we could in many different forms. The one additional area that we considered and reflected on and are thinking about going forward is the idea of parking on our town roads, and whenever possible, putting out messaging, early and even more clear about that, because when, if possible, folks being able to park on their lawns or in their driveways if able. It just makes it so much easier for our public works crews to be able to clear our roads. And that's really the only one area that we found for improvement. We'll continue the debrief conversation as well.
Great. Going from the kind of hyper-local snowstorms to a more national thing, we've seen all kinds of press nationally about immigrations and customs, and we are certainly not Minneapolis. But have you had any contact at all with federal government officials, state government officials about the activity that we read so much about daily in the national press? And we're in a bit of a bubble, perhaps, but we are in the real world, and is there anything going on that we might be interested to know about?
Sure, those are conversations that I do have, and yes, we are here in Westport, and we're not immune from what happens around us. Certainly over the summer, a few miles down the street, there was an ICE enforcement action. People in masks, in Norwalks, violently taking down a community member, and that was just a few miles down the street. And at that time, I did put out information about what residents can do, what community members can do to keep themselves safe, be aware of their rights, and in full disclosure, everything we do is public. I did reach out to the Attorney General's office to see if they had any updated information about protecting community members and their safety and their rights, and I hope to have an update in the near future. Great. Well, we're all watching that situation very carefully. This is directed to Kevin, but it's really for both of you, from a Staples senior who's in the audience. And this was mentioned a little bit, but what ways will you work to improve the Staples High School athletic fields for all students, regardless of gender? And I guess Abby can start off with that one, and Kevin can offer thoughts and support.
I think that we have a way to go in making it more comparable between particularly the girls and the boys programs. The boys programs do have more lighting on their fields, and they have team rooms and really nice locker rooms. We are fixing the locker rooms. We hope, that we can do that to create a more equal situation. We're gonna look for a lot of feedback from the teams, from the students, from the coaches, from the athletic director in doing those designs. I know that there is always discussion about lighting on the fields, and it's complicated because it includes, neighbors, as the lighting sometimes affects people's yards. The maintenance of the fields is done by Parks and Rec, so that's beyond what the Board of Ed and the district does.
Yeah, there's certainly opportunities to improve, and thank you for the question, Gunnar. It's the opportunity to light our fields, which planning and zoning did create an opportunity to further explore, with the exception of at long lots, given the construction and just as an observation, what neighbors may currently be going through with the construction at long lots. But the opportunity to bring lighting thoughtfully to our fields will certainly do what we need, which is to expand playing time for girls sports, for youth sports as well. So we are having conversations both on the quote-unquote town side and school side about a path forward to improve our fields and create even more equity with our girls and boys sports teams. Terrific.
There is moving a little bit from the schools to affordable housing to school budgets, there's a little bit of concern that school spending is increasing while we are making it difficult for seniors to stay in Westport, and affordable housing, the whole question of affordability. I guess it's a complicated question, but it involves not so much that they're mutually exclusive, but to the extent that housing affordability is very high on the priority list, that question would be, when will we ever be compliant with affordable requirements in the state, and when will we be able to not worry about 830G, and how will we be able to create more affordable housing in the meantime so that seniors can stay in place? 10-part question for all of you.
It's a real concern, affordability in general, in our state, in our country, and in Westport. There are families and residents that are hungry. There are residents that are on fixed incomes, where increases in taxes make it really challenging to stay here. And given the limited opportunity to downsize, thinking of our seniors, that inventory doesn't really exist. It's challenging for many town employees to live in town, or for young people to come back into town. And it's something that we have heard, Amy and I, over the course of the campaign, and certainly we continue to hear. And it's one of the opportunities, if you will, with the new housing bill, and which is now law in 8002, for us to have the control to develop our own plan, perhaps in conjunction with our regional partners, to develop housing that works for Westport, and more middle housing, more that is affordable, so that we can accommodate our seniors and town employees, and create more workforce housing.
Any thoughts, Abby?
I mean, do you want me to address the school budget, how that impacts the housing?
Maybe.
I mean,
Sure.
the school budget is a large chunk of the town's budget. And the board and the district work really hard to ensure that we bring in a fair budget. We look for, areas of cost avoidance. But my personal priority, I can really only speak for myself, is to maintain and preserve our excellent schools. We have some challenges with the rising of healthcare costs that is really dinging our budget, and the only movement that we can have in that is possibly thinking about different insurance plans, and that will be discussed. But we do our best to bring in a fair budget and understand the weight of how much the budget is.
They're certainly tied. It's hard to put them both directly together, but that's helpful. On the affordable housing question, the new 8002 legislation from the state, which is, I guess, requiring us to come up with a plan. How are you, or have you gotten into attacking that yet, Kevin?
Yeah, there's kind of, at a high level, two pieces to it. There are some zoning regulations that that all municipalities need to deal with before July 1. That's one piece of the new law, and then the other piece is developing a housing growth plan over the course of the next couple of years. Municipalities and councils of governments, the regional governing entities within Connecticut, we are still getting our arms around the new bill. I would say every 2 to 3 weeks there is probably a new presentation being hosted by CCM or Westcog or other entities on what this new housing bill is and means. So we are I did. Paul Leibowitz was here, our chair of planning and zoning. We are frequent attendees of those, as is our director of the planning and zoning department, Michelle Pirelli, and we're going to work through it. But we do have a couple of years before the housing growth plan does need to be submitted, but we are focused on it now.
And in the meantime, we're subject to 830G still, and are we close to moratorium points on that, or what's the situation on moratorium points?
Yeah, when Hiawatha and some of the post road developments come online, I think we should be in pretty good shape.
And that would give us a 4-year break at that point. Any idea what that date might be, Hiawatha and?
Not at the moment, no.
Not at the moment. Yep. Good.
But you can go down there. I mean, it is coming up fast, I would say.
This is an interesting question, which came from the floor. If anyone, say, chair from the Board of Ed decided to run for a higher office, would they stay on the Board of Ed while they were running?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I just asked the question.
Yeah.
There you go. We ask all your questions if we can, so there you go. Let's see. Let's get something back to hyperlocal problems. What about the terrible car congestion in town, Kevin? What are you doing to fix it? And when will it be completed?
Thank you to whoever asked that question.
Oh, you've got a few more coming. It's okay.
All right, I'm sure.
It is, though, I would say, to tie in a couple of others, we really do have a problem in town because there are so many state roads, as you said, in every debate. And are you having conversations with the state? Is there anything can be done maybe to help with the congestion? And what other things are you doing to maybe try to do something to help it out?
Yeah, we have been engaged with the state and the Department of Transportation and continue to do so. There are intersections where we have spent specific time with them, where our Director of Public Works has been in conversation with the state for years, and the recent conversations with DOT around some of those intersections have been quite positive, and there have been a number of conversations when we are starting to see progress, and when while I am optimistic about some of those intersections, whether it be turning lanes or pedestrian safety and crosswalks, DOT is a multi-billion-dollar organization, and it does take some time. And I believe we have their focus, and that is what generates my optimism. Continuing to generate more sidewalks, both that are usable, better maintaining our existing sidewalks, and there has been a significant effort in doing so over the course of the past few years, and adding more sidewalks where we can to make a more connected community and get more people off the roads, whether it be walking or on their bikes, and making it a safer and more bikeable community. All of that helps to alleviate our traffic concerns. And you've heard our police department with over 5,500 traffic stops over in 2025. Traffic enforcement is up as well, and we are looking at opportunities to create more enforcement, whether that be through traffic cameras. There was new legislation passed a little over a year ago that does involve cameras to enforce traffic violations. So we are looking at that as well in other towns who have implemented it. We have done some of the work already within our safety action plan and the Safe Streets for All, but it does require, in addition to understanding what neighboring towns are doing and their impact, and from a staffing perspective and how they reviewed the footage, it also requires a local ordinance, which can be brought by RTM, but would ultimately need to go through the RTM for deliberation and ultimate approval.
Which I bet would do pretty well. More specific, could we put a traffic circle at the intersection near exit 42?
Right, thank you. Exit 21 now.
Exit 21. Excuse me. But I bet nobody would know what that is. But exit 42, 21. Yeah, thank you, Ivan.
Yeah, that intersection, it was in the Safe Streets for All plan. It is DOT regulated, and they are evaluating opportunities to make it safer and smoother. And in terms of timing on that one, your guess is as good as mine, but we are.
But this might be breaking news. They really are evaluating it? I mean, they really are looking at
It's on their project list.
It's on the project list, and maybe a circle really could maybe be one of the.
That's a particular. It could be, but there may be other alternatives that
may not
make
be
more,
so breaking
that
news,
may make more sense.
Yeah.
But everyone is aware that it needs help, and personally, I drive through that intersection multiple times a day. So.
Indeed.
I feel it too.
Great. Well, that was a great question, and it's a great specific one, and one that really is one of those things that if it ever got done, people would say, wow, that really is a great thing. So that's terrific. So because Chief Farrell is here, and I know the answer to this, and it requires the public's help, but there's a question for Kevin. What are you doing to reduce the incidence of car theft in Westport, which I hear is still rising? And I know the answer is don't leave your key fob in your car while the car is running downtown, but please answer that question if you would.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
There was a great presentation of the Wise Men a number of weeks ago, and the police said that's the one thing we all have to do is just get out of that habit. So anyway, concur with that, Chief? That's good. Okay. And you mentioned, I believe maybe this was incorporated, but just to get this question out, you mentioned the performance of the police. I think in the response time, that included the fire, but could you comment on the fire department as well, or just maybe add on to the fire, or?
Oh, sure, yeah. The response time stat was a fire department stat. I think it was averaging 3 minutes, 53 seconds on average. For fire response to actual incidents.
That was fire?
That was fire.
Yeah, okay. Good.
And yeah, I've seen it in action. They are on the truck in well under a minute after they get a call.
Fantastic. And on the question of emergency services, we have been talking about combining fire and police, which I think might still be on the docket or list, but of priorities or thoughts. But what's happening with that?
Getting a better handle on our existing stations. I think it's clear that we need to do something, especially for our firefighters and their living conditions. The Saugatuck station in particular is challenged from a space perspective, as are all of our stations. Many of our facilities in town, not just speaking to police or fire, but whether it be golf or schools or maintenance, water lines at Longshore, nearly 100-year-old water line that's getting replaced in the near future. Our facilities need some attention, and developing a path and runway and plan so that we can do it thoughtfully and in conjunction, not only with our Planning and Zoning Commission, but with the Board of Finance and with all of you to make sure that our taxes and mill rate continue to stay attractive and affordable is a massive challenge. And, no, thank you. And I think in terms of building a new combined public protection facility and the idea of putting it in, taking up a ton of open space on the connector is something that I have not yet got my arms around, and that is consistent with where I was on the campaign.
Mm-hmm. Still in reviewing by departments and by you. Great. With regard to big new projects, Abby, what about the next school project? Where are we with?
Aside from long lots?
Well, assuming we're, yes, progressing with that. What's next?
I mean, we're looking at getting a building committee together for Coley Elementary School, as that is a very aging facility that needs renovation. Unlike Long Lot School, we would not be able to build a brand new school because we don't have the space. But the next step is really for the development of a building committee. And whether that will be the existing committee that did Long Lots and Coley Middle School, I think that will be up to them if they want to continue their service. But that's really the next big one. Aside from some of the stuff that I highlighted in the facilities, you know, upgrading the Staples Auditorium. What else did I have on there? Like upgrading the fields, getting concession stands. Facilities continues to be a priority for our district, as many of us on the board lived through the Coley Middletown shutdown and watching our kids go to the mega school. So it's always a priority to make sure that we're maintaining our facilities.
And for me, as it relates to Coley-L and a building committee, which would come from me, the priority for me with Coley-L is really understanding how urgent of a need it is, and I think to address that, and certainly are learning from our collective experience on Coley Middle and Long Lots, you know, getting building envelope assessment done and the MEP assessment as well, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing assessment with some destructive testing from a wall perspective in the envelopes. That will, if we can get that done, whether it be in the context of a building committee or not, that will help to inform how urgent Coley-L is and where it may or may not fall on the 10-year capital forecast.
Mm-hmm. Great. I'm getting a sense for what Kevin's day is like by reading these questions as they come up here all over the place. So I'm hopping around a little bit, but tell us about the Hamlet and the current status of discussions with Roan, and if there are alternatives being discussed or where we are on that.
My understanding is Roan is still appealing their decision with the town. That was the Hamlet. I assume everyone in the audience or maybe watching at home is familiar, but that was the development contemplated in Saugatuck that the Planning and Zoning Commission denied. Ronan, the developer, appealed that decision, and that's where we are. We do not yet have another application in front of us to evaluate. There have been conversations in town through the RTM committees where the public and myself have been involved about the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority, which is a state entity that provides or has the opportunity to provide to municipalities technical expertise and funding expertise around development in transit areas or downtown areas. So that is something that we as a town are currently evaluating, But if we were to ultimately do it, the path starts with the RTM adopting a resolution. It's an interesting opportunity. Our RTM committees are still working through it to see if it truly does make sense for Westport or not.
Okay, good. There are more questions coming in. Keep those coming. Another not very controversial topic. What about the community gardens? What is the current status on that, and when will there be a community garden?
I would love for there to be a community garden as soon as practicable. That has not changed. I think as many people know, what the gardens need are sunlight, water, easily accessible parking, flat land. Our Parks and Rec director and myself have been looking at a few locations in town to advance that conversation. We've continued to have a number of conversations with gardeners and other users of that type of space in town. And for me, and I think many gardeners as well, making sure that we get it right. We have seen the gardens now have to move multiple times in their history and in our town, and to find the right home and a permanent home is critically important, and doing it as soon as possible, so they don't have to lose even more growing seasons.
I'm sorry, do you have a time?
You missed it, Jeff.
I did.
Sorry.
What was the time? Oh.
Yeah, we're working through it, and we continue and engage with gardeners and with other users of similar space.
Perfect. Okay. Oh boy. Board of Ed, will Kings Highway Elementary and Coleytown be redistricting?
That's going to require a lot of conversation and information. We need to get the information from the demographers. We have not really begun discussing it as a Board of Ed, so we're a little far off from that. Like I said, it requires more information and a lot of board discussion. We don't do it lightly. We understand that majority of families want to stay in their home schools and their community schools and don't want to move to another school. So, it will require a lot of conversation.
It is interesting, the fear of redistricting, and there was one last year, small, and the one previous to that was maybe 25 years ago when our kid was redistricted. It was a great outcome for him. So I don't know that that's such a...
I'll like if it's educationally prudent, which it was for the last one, then that's the decision the board makes. If it makes sense for all of the students involved, then that's the decision the board makes.
Yeah, it brings me back to the good old Board of Ed days, and yeah, I remember going through that decision and work, and for me, there's one, doing what's right for the district, but two, also state statute mandates that we ensure there's an equitable allocation of resources across our schools. So that's always an important factor in making these decisions as well.
Great. Kevin, there was some recent discussion about your plans for the Downtown Plan Implementation Committee. How do you see working with that going forward, and what are your plans for the many, many moving parts to be discussed in downtown? And I'll kind of take up 10 of these different cards and leave you with that wide-ranging question.
So a couple of things, and great question. First, ensuring we fill the chair seat of the committee. That's a top priority, and also a top priority for me, ensuring that our local merchants have a seat at the table, and that leadership and the committee in general is open to new ideas. And thank you. And being able to advance the project forward. There, just looking around at some faces that have been in town for a very long time. This iteration of the Downtown Plan Implementation Committee has been around for over 10 years. And this is downtown parking and downtown in general, and harnessing the riverfront has been a conversation in town for decades. And we still have a Parker Harding parking lot that is unpaved and a challenging situation on a number of levels. So engaging in conversations with the committee, with residents, with local merchants, doing it constructively with the Planning and Zoning Commission as well to put a pin in this and really help to improve not only Parker Harding, but the downtown parking situation in general, while beautifying downtown as well, especially on the river, which is, at the moment, is just not true to Westport. And it presents a lot of opportunity, and it's something that both Amy and I are looking forward to making progress on.
Great. Any thoughts on the maintenance shed, the Parks and Rec maintenance shed?
Facility.
The maintenance facility, I'm so sorry.
Another piece of infrastructure or town facility that needs some love and a solution as soon as possible. It is, I've heard the feedback from Planning and Zoning with the first application that went to the commission, and yes, it came to the Parks and Rec Commission a couple of weeks ago. We're still working through it. I think for me, some critical points in terms of finding a new home for it. I do think about neighbors. I do think about this type of facility as being loud early in the mornings, and granted, I'm not the land use body, but I do think about the neighbor impact. So I think it might have been that first week of right around the swearing in for all the newly elected officials. We did have a site tour going all around town, looking at opportunities for new homes for the maintenance shed, and again, finding new ideas and new ways of evaluating opportunities from an operational perspective, and also from a community perspective, are important. And I think what has become clear to both myself and to Eric, if not already obvious, Eric Barbieri, our Director of Parks and Rec, one, it has to go somewhere, and two, any location is going to have a significant amount of trade-offs. And working through that internally with myself and Pete Rakowicz, our Director of Public Works, and Eric, and from an operational perspective and what our operational needs are, and then starting to advance that outside of Town Hall and socializing it with the commission, the Parks and Rec Commission, and ultimately the Planning and Zoning Commission and the public is our path forward. But it's needed. Again, it's some of our town employees are working in this very dated facility that needs a solution, and both Eric and I are working through it.
I think the world agrees that it needs a new facility. That is a mess. It's just a question of where. That's all. So we're almost out of time. So a little bit of a lightning round, maybe, to get through some of these cards. Kevin, what are your short? None of these are easy answers, but just to try to get through some more questions, what are your short-term goals for sustainability improvements in Westport?
Short-term goals are, as I've talked about during the campaign, it's sustainable CT. They have an action plan. I have been talking to them since I have been in office about getting us back to a bronze level certification, and that. And that the action plans that they have. Provides a clear roadmap to get there, and both Sustainable CT and Sustainable Westport have been very supportive about starting to map out how we get back to bronze.
Great.
As a starting point.
Abby, your biggest concerns on the academic front in the schools? I mean, it looks like there are no concerns on the academic front, but. What do you worry about on the Board of Ed?
Currently, we're really going to take a deep dive into our special education program, possibly bringing in a third-party person to do a deep review. We review programs all the time. We recently did a deep dive into our science program through the Tri-State Consortium, which gave us recommendations for improvement, although also highlighting the excellence of our program. And so some of those will be implemented. And we've also, before that, did one for world language and, saw some of the ways that we can improve our world language program. So the next big one is going to be our special ed program. But, I think we have concerns, about how are we implementing AI. That's a really big concern of mine. How are we making sure, as I talked about in my presentation, kids aren't on the computers too much? We eliminated phones in all of the schools K through 12, but then we're sending kids home to get on their computers. They're working on Google Classroom. They're working on their Chromebooks. So how do we balance that out? That's a really big concern of mine. Yeah.
Great. Kevin, are we going to get rid of these snow piles before May, and how? I got to ask a question. Yeah, it's a question.
Yeah, as I touched on in the presentation, yes, we will get rid of them. Hopefully, this cold spell will eventually be over, which will help. But it is a process to clear snow from a snowstorm like the one that we had last weekend. And again, it's the priority is clearing the main roads and hills in the event that our public safety professionals need to be out there and responding. And just to do that, like I said, often requires 40-hour shifts from our public works crews. And I had the pleasure in the storm the day after Christmas of riding with Dave Smith in one of our snow plows. And it was just an eye-opening experience and made me even more grateful for our public works crews. But it does take time to get to the piles, all of which, as photos were popping up of, was it Mount Woog or Mount Christie downtown at Maine and Post Road. But a day later, Mount Woog or Mount Christie was not there any longer. So it does take time, and it does take additional time to get to the sidewalks as well. And I have seen, I know our crews have been out there, and sidewalks have been clear. So both in combination of public works and ideally a little warmer weather when it makes, when Mother Nature gets around to it.
And for another question, the town clears sidewalks, their responsibility.
And there's commercial property owners.
Shouldn't stop anyone from doing their own sidewalks, but that would be very helpful. But there you go. Is there
RTM could think about an ordinance.
There we go. Yeah.
If you know
we
anybody.
can all go out and do our districts. Yeah, that's great. I don't think that it'd sell too well, but there we go. Is there anything specific being done to improve the quality of the water in Long Island Sound? It was closed so many times this year for various challenges. It's a big infrastructure problem, but is there anything that can be done at this point, or what's being done?
A couple of things. In terms of the closures or the length of the closures, we have explored ways with the Health District and Parks and Rec to speed up testing, so we can get quicker answers, so our beaches can be closed in a shorter amount of time. And there continue to be questions about what the cause is of the closures and what's driving the water quality. And there are many entities in town, from our volunteer commissions to Harbor Watch at Earth Place and others that are spending time to better understand. So it's again, but it's important.
It's important and a tough question. Abby, the money being spent on the girls' locker room is adding a team room. It may not be a real overhaul renovation. Is there a plan to keep improving the girls' facilities to match the boys' facilities, or is this the last step in an expected project for a while?
I mean, I don't think the design is fully complete, so what it's going to look like. I know there's concern about lighting and the showers, and I think that we don't really know what the end design is going to be right now, so it's hard to say. But I think we're always going to be looking to improve and ensure equity and improve both locker rooms. Both facilities is always a top priority, and certainly equity is always a priority.
Right. Okay. Well, last year when we did this, we were running low on questions at the end. I've still got a lot of questions here, but we're almost 10 minutes over 3:30, so I'm going to thank you and ask if you'd like to say anything else, or give you the opportunity not to say anything else.
I would just say thank you to everyone for coming or watching at home. This type of engagement is critical to ensuring we collectively as a town move forward. And I was serious about Board of Finance budget workshops over the course of this month, and then the formal hearings in early March. Please let your voices be heard. But thank you for participating, and I think everybody knows how to find me if there's anything else. So thank you.
And Abby mentioned. Abby mentioned the reliance on AI, or that being a big part of the academic. I want you to know I went today to AI to search for jokes for new mayors. And the only thing that I came up with was the new mayor, the first time he was at a State of the Town in 2026, he said, "We've turned the corner. We're starting on a new initiative." And the year later, in 2027, he has said, "We have turned so many corners, we're right where we started." And I assure you that's not going to be the case next year, when we look forward to having you here again. And thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Jeff.